Authentic power is a part of the new consciousness, and external power is a part of the old consciousness. How do you make the shift? What is the transition from the old consciousness to the new? Authentic power is love. There's no greater power. So everything that prevents you from loving is that which you must identify and move beyond the control of in order to live in the loving parts of your personality. So when you know that a frightened part of your personality is active, use your volition to remember a time when you were loved and loving. Put yourself in that energy and choose to act and speak from that energy while you are experiencing the painful physical sensations. That's the moment of creating authentic power. As you create authentic power, you serve the evolution of your soul and you bring its energy into the earth school through you. And that is real. This podcast is about authentic power. It's about the difference between authentic power and external power. Authentic power is a part of the new consciousness, and external power is a part of the old consciousness. The two consciousnesses are not the same. It's not a gradual shift from one to the other. This is interesting. I wrote a book on quantum mechanics at one time. You might say this is a quantum transition. It jumps from one to another. It's not a little bit here or a little bit there. When a subatomic particle transforms into another subatomic particle, it doesn't do it in a gradual way. It just like that. Once there is one particle, then it's not there and another particle is there. That's a quantum jump, a quantum leap. So we use that term now because of the book that I wrote, partially, called The Dancing Wu Li Masters. There were some other good books too. But now that term, quantum jump, quantum leap, and then even more, quantum field theory, quantum consciousness, quantum, you name it, it can be a quantum something now. But it had a specific meaning. Quantum is a quantity of something. Max Born discovered that in something called black body radiation when he saw how things get hot and start to glow. They start out black and then the metal glows. And that happens in quantum leaps. Well, the old consciousness to the new consciousness is like that, except they're both existing at the same time. One particle doesn't exist and then is replaced by another. They're both existing at the same time, but if you want to experience one or the other, you can't experience a little bit of one and a little bit of the other. They're mutually exclusive. If you're experiencing love, you can't experience fear. It's not possible. You just can't do it. You can't even remember a time when you were frightened. And when you're experiencing fear, you can't even remember a time when you were loving. You can remember a time that you were, but you can't experience that. Not while you're experiencing fear. So when we talk about authentic power, we're talking about the quantum, I suppose we could say quantum difference. The dramatic difference, that's a better way to put it, between the old consciousness and the new, between fear and love. That is the quantum jump. You make it gradually as you learn to create authentic power. But when you're in authentic power, you'll see. You just can't remember being frightened. I know with my beloved Linda Francis, we experienced a love, not between us. We didn't share it. We were it. And it was so easy and so complete and so present and so always there. Except when we were in power struggles, and that's a power struggle for external power, manipulation and control. When frightened parts of a personality confront The frightened part of another personality without care or concern or compassion, that's a power struggle. And it's painful. And everyone has them. If you've got a relationship of any substance and depth, you've got them. And if you have relationships of no substance and depth, your relationships are continual power struggles. So it was so good, it was so enjoyable being together because it was so easy, so complete. Well, that's what it's like when you experience love. There's no need. Now, when her soul went home, I experienced very dramatically, very painfully, very unexpectedly, and I did not welcome what I experienced, and that is the difference between need and love. I knew that I loved Linda, my beloved, and of course I suspected that frightened parts of my personality needed her, but I didn't expect how powerful and crushing and excruciating they were when they didn't have her the way they wanted her to be, which is physically present in the Earth School. Love feels good. Fear hurts. There's no such thing as unrequited love. Love is love. There is a lot of unrequited fear in the human experience, and that is painful. And that's how you identify a frightened part of your personality with your emotional awareness. That's what you learned when you went to the course that we have on our website called Emotional Awareness. You learn how to put your attention in your energy processing centers and see what physical sensations are there. And if they're painful, like burning, churning, stabbing, stinging, contracting, aching, throbbing, you know that a frightened part of your personality is active. And when you look at its thoughts, they'll always be judgmental and critical. And you know in that moment you are not experiencing love, and it's not possible for you to. So how do you do it? How do you make the shift? What is the transition from the old consciousness to the new? When you know that a frightened part of your personality is active because you feel the painful physical sensations of it in your energy processing centers like your chest, throat, and solar plexus, and you see they're just there for you, the judgmental and critical thoughts of a frightened part. She's so stupid. I'm so stupid. You're so stupid. We're all so stupid. These are all judgmental, critical, and these are the experiences of frightened parts of your personality. So to create authentic power requires becoming aware of what's keeping you from experiencing authentic power. It's like that wonderful, wonderful old story, and I don't know if it's folklore or if it actually happened this way, but one of my favorite sculptors, maybe everybody's favorite sculpture, outside of Rodin, is Michelangelo. And Michelangelo created sculptures of marble that were so lifelike that you couldn't tell from looking at them that they weren't life. And one of them is this beautiful 17-foot tall statue called David, or the David. It's David with his slingshot he's about ready to confront, or he's being confronted by Goliath. And he doesn't have anything. In this statue, David isn't even wearing any clothing. The only thing he's got that he can use is a slingshot. And there's something about him that's very human. He's got that too. So when someone asks Michelangelo, how did you do that? How'd you make that out of stone? It's so real. And he said, I saw it inside the block of marble, and I removed everything that prevented its appearance. Well, creating authentic powers like that, that which prevents you from experiencing your love are your fears. That which prevents you from being continually a loving part of your personality is the continual presence or insistence of a frightened part of your personality. So to create authentic power, it's necessary to identify everything that prevents you from doing that. What is authentic power? Authentic power is love. There's no greater power. So everything that prevents you from loving is that which you must identify and move beyond the control of in order to live in the loving parts of your personality on an ongoing basis. So here's how you create authentic power. First, you recognize when you're in a frightened part. And this can happen in different sequences. This is just the easiest way for me to imagine it and to share it. You become aware of a frightened part, and psychologically you're aware of when you're angry or jealous or resentful or competitive. Sometimes you're not aware of those things. Sometimes you can be very resentful and not actually realize and think that you're a good person and you don't think things like that or feel things like that, but you do. And this way, you can really experience them if you're interested. And it's good for you to be interested, because if you're not, these are the parts of your personality, the frightened parts, that are controlling you. When they're active, they act, they speak, they create consequences, which means they create karma, and you experience the karma. And if you're not aware of them, they do it anyway. So it's good to be able to distinguish between loving and frightened parts of your personality. And by the way, if you don't know your intention, it's fear. And you're creating with an intention of fear. You're creating painful consequences for you. Now, here's the thing. When you don't know your awareness, you are still creating as powerfully as you are when you're aware of your intention. You are a powerful and creative, compassionate, and loving spirit, whether you're aware of it or not. And if you're not aware of it, you're creating with frightened parts of your personality, and you are creating with fear with the same power and intensity and effectiveness as you are when you're creating with love. When you become a loving personality, you don't create more effectively. You simply create with more awareness and ability to choose what you're creating. So now how do you do it? When you're experiencing a frightened part of your personality using your emotional awareness, you use your volition, your free will, and you have it. Every personality has free will. There's nothing determined about your experience. You're not burdened with a destiny. There is no such thing. You are a chooser. More than that, you are choice. You are always choosing. And the choice you are always choosing is between love and fear, because you can't choose them both at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. So when you know that a frightened part of your personality is active, use your volition to remember a time when you were loved and loving. Oh, how beautiful that was. Maybe it was something, a moment with a parent, or with a grandparent, or with a child, or with a classmate, or someone that you'll never forget. You knew you were loved, no second agendas, and you knew you were loving, or both. Now put yourself in that energy. And while you are in that energy, choose to act and speak from that energy while you are experiencing the painful physical sensations in your energy processing centers and the judgmental, critical thoughts of the frightened part of your personality. That's the moment. That's the moment of creating authentic power. That's when the rubber meets the spiritual road. You're the rubber. Your life is the road. As you do that again and again, the frightened part of your personality that you are challenging begins to lose its control over you. And eventually, it doesn't control you anymore. It still comes. It still hurts. It still thinks its judgmental and critical thoughts, but they don't penetrate you as much as they did before. They roll off of you like water off the feathers of a duck. And eventually, it's not a part of your personality anymore. That's challenging a frightened part of your personality. It's not going to war with it. It's not embracing it. Definitely not. It's not surrendering to it. Definitely not. It's not any of those things. It is moving beyond the control of that part of your personality. It is experiencing it intimately so that you know what it is you're challenging and you know what it is you're moving beyond the control of. That's how you create authentic power. No one can do it for you, and you can't do it for anyone else. No one wants to do it for you. No one cares about doing it for you. You're the only one. You're going to stay the way you are, or you're going to change. You can't do both. If you choose not to change, it's no judgment from the universe about that. You simply continue to experience what you're creating for yourself. And if you choose to change, there's no reward, there's no accolation, there's no admiration. You just create different experiences. It's that simple. Now, do it. You'll find out, as I have and as every person on this earth has found out or is finding out, it's not that easy to change your life from the bottom up, but it's worth it. Oh, is it worth it? And I couldn't even begin to assess that while I was in the frightened parts of my personality, while I was angry, continually judgmental, superior, arrogant, and addicted to sex. That's how most people live their lives, not with those particular frightened parts, although a lot of them do. Addiction to sex is the most common addiction in the human experience. But fear is fear. Pain is pain. And pain by itself is simply pain, but pain for a worthy reason. That's suffering. Experiencing the pain of frightened parts of your personality, having the courage to do that because you intend to challenge it, because you intend to move beyond its control, because you intend to create authentic power, that's worthwhile. And that's what changes you. And when you challenge a frightened part of your personality, you cultivate a loving part. When you're impatient, isn't it because you're putting yourself first and your needs first before everybody else's? Well, look at it and see. Once your needs are met, don't you have all the patience in the world with the needs of other people? Yes, you do. So when you're challenging your impatience, you're cultivating patience. When you're cultivating generosity, a loving part of your personality, you're challenging stinginess, hoarding. All of that is of one thread. And that thread is of one fabric. The thread is creating authentic power. The fabric is your life. And your life is a part of the universe. It is the universe. But we'll talk about that in more detail. So, what is real? Love is real. Authentic power is love. Authentic power is real. That's why creating it enables you to give the gifts you were born to give. And that's where your joy and fulfillment and completion and vitality and creativity come into being. And that's who you become. And as you become that, you are becoming authentically powerful. In fact, more than that, you are authentically powerful. The loving parts of your personality, gratitude, caring, appreciation, patience, all of the universe, these are experiences of your soul. When you're experiencing them, you are experiencing your soul. And when you act on them, you are bringing the energy of your soul into the earth school. That's it. That's authentic power. An authentically powerful individual is one through whom the energy of its soul flows like the breath of a musician through a flute, making beautiful music. And in such a person, you cannot tell where the personality leaves off and the soul begins. In each moment of gratitude, you are that. I lived in Mount Shasta, in awe of Mount Shasta, climbing Mount Shasta, skiing on Mount Shasta, hiking on Mount Shasta, kayaking to its rivers, at the rivers at the base of it. And I loved it. There were times every evening when, as the sun set, the mountain began to change color. It's a 14,162-foot magnificent mountain changing color in front of your eyes. First, it changes from earth tones to lighter tones, and then it becomes a little pink, and then it becomes more pink, and then it becomes luminescent pink. You can't see something like this on LSD. And it's right there in front of your eyes when you're looking at a sunset in Arizona, or you're looking at a mountain at sunset. That's called alpenglow. And then after it turns this luminescent pink, it begins to change color again and into slightly violet shades, and then purple shades until it becomes purple and dark purple, and it becomes dark and night has come. And in that process, while you're standing there watching the mountain, fascinated, mesmerized, there's no difference between the mountain and you are. And you are watching it. And who is watching? What is happening? Where's the line between you and the mountain? That's the experience of wonder. That's the experience you were born to create, if you choose, on an ongoing, stabilized basis. Authentic power is real. Everything that happens to you in the Earth School happens for a reason, and that is your spiritual growth. Every experience you have serves your spiritual growth. That's another way of saying that every experience you have is a karmic necessity. Why blame or credit others or the world for what you're experiencing? You are the creator of it, yourself. No one else. No one else could be. And when you experience wonder, whether it's in the countless stars and galaxies that you can see at night, or those that you can, and a mountain at sunset, or an ocean in its magnificence, you are experiencing your soul. Everything in the Earth School serves the evolution of your soul. As you create authentic power, you serve the evolution of your soul, and you bring its energy into the Earth School through you, and that is real. If you're enjoying anything you're hearing on this podcast, subscribe to it. Now, what do I mean by enjoy? Do I mean, is it entertaining for you? Does it make you laugh? Does it make you forget your worries? That's not what I mean. I mean, do you resonate with anything that I say as relevant, profound, and pertinent for you, not for the world, for you? Something that you can use, something that you can experiment with in your life. If you do, if you resonate, then subscribe, because there's more where this comes from. It comes from the universe, as do you. So take out your notebook, your soul notebook from your purse or your rear jeans pockets, and your pencil, and write down anything I've said in this podcast that you resonate with, or that you learned that you didn't know before, and you're glad that you do. And then make a note to experiment with it. See if it's worth keeping in your life. That's what creating authentic power is. It's seeing what's worth keeping in your life and what you will replace it with. What's not worth keeping is fear. That doesn't mean that fear is valueless. It serves a purpose. You cannot make a wrong choice. There is learning in every consequence that you create. Everyone. Yet, why choose to learn through fear and doubt? Why choose a road that's rocky and difficult and steep and dangerous? Why not choose one that's beautiful, through a grassy, flower-filled meadow with streams, or by the beach with the gentle surf caressing your feet. These are your choices. Choices in quality of experience. And as you learn to choose to create with the quality of love, that's what love is. It's a quality of consciousness, not love. An intention is a quality of consciousness. And when you choose to create with the intention of love, you infuse your words and your deeds with that quality of consciousness and create beautiful consequences for yourself. And when you act or speak with an intention of fear, that quality of consciousness infuses your words and your deeds and the consequences that they create. So look at all of these things when you're writing in your soul notebook. Which ones are meaningful to you? If a lot of them are, that's good. Buy another soul notebook when this one's full. Maybe you're on your third or fourth or fifth or sixth soul notebook now. If not, give yourself time. If you choose, no one flunks the Earth School. Everyone becomes authentically powerful. The question is when and what experiences you will create with yourself along the way. I'm looking forward to being with you again in our next podcast together. I always look forward to being with you again. I'm Gary Zukav.